Hi, everybody. I'm Colleen Frangos, Rocket IT's Community Relationship Coordinator. And here we have another great episode of our Thrive Gwinnett community-focused video series. This is brand new for 2020. We've got a lot of great folks out in our community that we have the opportunity, or I should say, I have the opportunity because I have the best job in the world, to talk to a lot of folks who have continued to make positive impacts here in Gwinnett in the greater Atlanta area. So today I'm joined by Miss Brooke Waters. She is the program manager over at Leadership Gwinnett. So Brooke, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this today.
Me too. So, Brooke, you too have one of the best jobs in the world. You have the privilege of, providing some really cool opportunities to inspire, to engage, to connect people in our community at all different levels of leadership with some fabulous programs. And I love it. I am a GLANCE Gwinnett alum myself back in the fall of 2019. And one day, Leadership Gwinnett is in my future. Fingers crossed.
It is.
So hopefully. So until then, I am trying to pitch in, do my part. I'm helping out with the GLANCE planning committee for this fall, which is going to be exciting. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Help us that we can keep this conversation, Brooke, in 10 minutes. We'll try our best. But speaking of trying our best, you and your team at Leadership Gwinnett have done an amazing job in that respect. 2020 has been incredibly challenging. I think you all, in terms of a programming aspect, have had to really rally together, whether that be just internally with the volunteers who help out with Leadership Gwinnett, the big program, just providing great content in a different way. So I would love to hear from you, Brooke. What did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Many others, especially nonprofits, March hit us like a ton of bricks. And
Absolutely.
we really had to pivot and figure out what was next for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing we really had to focus on was, as a staff, we've got a really small staff, only 3 of us, and then 250 volunteers who help us out. Yeah, so we've got a great group that we work with. So I do truly have a wonderful job and work with a lot of great people. But we had to think of what we could do to keep our staff and our volunteers safe.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, because of partners like Rocket IT, we had great technology and we were able to quickly pick up our laptops from our docking stations and go work from home full time.
Awesome.
So that was the first thing that we really focused on. I think it was a little easier for us because we had such a small staff and we're in constant communication.
For sure.
That wasn't a big deal. The next thing was actually learning Zoom, which is now like a household name. But, at the time, we had never even heard of it. We had never used it. But we realized we were going to get really familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we quickly tried to think of what we could do to keep our alums engaged because obviously things were changing. And we realized a lot of them were looking at us for information about what was going on in the community.
Absolutely.
It makes sense because a lot of our alums are also the key players in the community. So fortunately, we had great connections, great people to really reach to for those answers. So the first of the 7-part series that we rolled out was on March 24th. So that was a week or two after the pandemic hit. And that was a focus on how Gwinnett's caring for the community in a time of crisis, which really focused on the Gwinnett Cares effort. Yes. So we thought that would be a great opportunity for us to just kind of get this started, to learn a little more about what was going on and how we could all plug in.
Right.
So soon after that, on April 2nd, we actually talked to Dr. Audrey Arona and had her perspective on everything. We had her give us an update. She was awesome. She gave her cell phone number to everybody.
She's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Told people to call her. She said her staff hates that, but as individuals, you love it and you
Oh,
really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Speed
So,
dial.
yeah, that's that true human element.
I agree.
And then after that, we decided that people had heard a lot about the health end of things. And then people were starting to think more about what's next? How is this impacting other aspects of the community? So then on April 9th, we actually looked at the economic impact that this was having on Gwinnett with Nick Messino and Lisa Anders. So, they're the gurus for all things economic development.
Absolutely. They're awesome.
They did a great job. And then again, we were thinking of other areas that were impacted. And on April 16th, we jumped to the justice system with Judge Christina Bloom. Because they were doing absolutely. They were doing a lot of things virtually too. And, courts were pretty much shut down for a while.
True.
So then on April 22nd, we jumped back to Leaders on the Front Lines with Eastside Medical Center and Trent Lynn, their CEO. Then we got an update from county leaders on April 30th. So Commissioners Charlotte Nash and Marlene Foscue. And then finally, we ended the series in May talking about vaccine development and immunizations.
Very interesting.
We did a lot to just try to get as much information out as we possibly could.
And so quickly, which was impressive.
That's what we really tried for. And we had about 100 people attend each of those. And of course, all of those people were alums of the Leadership Gwinnett program or the GLANCE program. So we felt like we did a pretty good job taking care of our alumni group, which was one of our big goals.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we had the Leadership Gwinnett class of 2020 that we really had to focus on as well.
Definitely.
So that was something completely different, something we've never had to think about before. So fortunately, the class was almost done.
Okay.
2 more months left. So we had one of our learning days, which was building community leaders. It was supposed to be an in-person day, obviously, followed by a reception with about 250 people in attendance.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had to go to a virtual half day for that and obviously cancel the reception.
Right.
However, we were still very optimistic that we would be able to carry through with our final retreat for the class. Supposed to be in May.
Right.
We kept watching the numbers. We kept watching the governor's orders. We wound up pushing the retreat out a little bit, just hoping that we could pull this off because it's such a special time for all the graduates.
Yeah.
When time came, unfortunately, we couldn't do that. So again, we had a virtual graduation, which wound up being a big success. And we actually ended it with a drive-by graduation where all the volunteers held signs, they were singing, they were dancing, they were just having so much fun and just really celebrating the class.
I love that.
So that was an awesome way to end given the circumstances.
Yeah, and it's a way to get creative and, just kind of think on the fly. And, I think having everybody rally behind you guys and your efforts to celebrate such a resilient class, as I think it was quoted, right?
It was called the most resilient class ever. That's right.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And you were a part of that class, right?
I was a part of that class. So it was interesting because I had the perspective of what I guess I should say it should have been like versus what it actually was. But I was just so proud of all the volunteers and staff for the way that they did get creative and were able to pull it off and just make it really feel like that ending.
Yeah. No, I think you guys did a great job. And, I think you guys are continuing to do a great job as serving, on the planning committee for this fall with GLANCE. A whole new world. It's going to be 100% virtual, and I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's a cool way to get new people involved, and hopefully we're going to see some folks who may not have normally been able to participate join in this time because it is virtual. Who knows? So tell me a little bit about what's next for GLANCE for this fall.
Yeah, absolutely, and we appreciate your time for that. This committee is definitely probably more committed than any other committee, just because it's like we're having to start from scratch.
Right. I agree.
So when we started that, again, like everything else, we looked at the different options. We looked at in-person programming, we looked at a hybrid model, and then a fully virtual model. And ultimately, with everything going on, we couldn't predict what this fall would look like. So we decided to go with the fully virtual model, as you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
So typically GLANCE is 2.5 days. We've decided instead that we're going to do 3 half days for the program, which is awesome for people who were giving up their full 2.5 days.
That is true.
So, time is money. Now you have the opportunity to do work in the afternoon, to do virtual learning with your kids, whatever you might need to do.
Exactly.
So that's one good thing. It kind of freed up some time for some people who could participate. But at the same time, we're still trying to give participants access to the same great speakers, maybe even different speakers that might not be available otherwise.
True.
We're still going to have a ton of networking opportunities. As you know, those are so valuable.
Yes. Super fun.
And then we're still going to try to focus on that behind the scenes learning, even though we can't go out to the different venues and see things and, have that hands-on experience. We still want to give some information and some tidbits that might not be available to everybody.
Right.
So in addition, one more change is the reduced fee. Typically the program is $600 and we're doing $399. So another
it's more affordable.
great perk. Yeah. So,
I agree.
if people maybe had an issue paying the $600, $399 is much more reasonable for them. And then we do have scholarships available as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. And for me, I think the big thing is just that we can be sure this way people are safe. They can do this from the comfort of their own homes, offices, while traveling. People who might have a compromised immune system are able to do this.
True.
People who have employers who might not want them to be out in the community still have opportunities to mix and mingle.
Yeah. No, I think that's the way to go. And I think it's just the reality. And I think rising to the occasion to still provide great content in the virtual platform is huge. And like you said, I think you've got a great team internally with Leadership Gwinnett working through some of these challenges and making sure that it's an awesome program, but the volunteers who are helping out, and I think the speakers that are going to be engaged with this for the fall is it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to it. I think from your standpoint, Brooke, we definitely want to encourage people to participate. You guys are, a nonprofit organization, and I don't know if everybody in the community knows that. But I know we talked about it a little bit here. So I'd be curious to hear from you. What are those needs? What needs does Leadership Gwinnett have right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all nonprofits, we can always use financial contributions in many forms. As I mentioned earlier, we have partnerships with great organizations such as Rocket IT. Some are in kind. Others are actually paid sponsorships. We have an Amazon Smile account and also an Amazon wish list for people who might not want to contribute as much, but can still give a little. All of those things are huge for us. And then we also have membership, which I think you're a member of our GLANCE graduate network. And then we have membership for our GLANCE grads and also our Leadership Gwinnett alums. That membership is huge because that allows us to do the programming we did, as I mentioned earlier. So that's really, really big for us. And then also, as we previously mentioned with GLANCE, referrals are huge for us. I'd say about 95% of the people who come through our program are referral based.
Love it. Tell your friends.
Yeah. It's somebody like you who went through the program and then came back and said, this is what I got from it. I think you need to do this.
Right.
So if anybody out there has somebody they'd like to refer for our November program, you can visit glancegwinnett.com or email me directly at bwaters@leadershipgwinnett.com, and I'd be happy to set them up.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Brooke, that's been a mouthful. We covered a lot of ground, all the awesome things that y'all are doing. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your staff. Y'all are amazing women in our community, and we're lucky to have y'all. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for all you give to our organization. And thanks also to all Rocket IT does for us. Like I said, we couldn't have done all this without y'all.
Love it. Love it. Mutual affection. I love it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, Brooke, you enjoy the rest of your day, and everybody who tuned in, you know what to do. We need referrals for Glance. So, check them out. And I hope everyone tunes in for a next fun episode and conversation with Thrive Gwinnett. Until then, have a great one.